question is for all candidates. And we will start with Mr. Barnaskas. Once the school is up and running, how will the memorial campus be utilized?
I don't know.
Okay.
Okay, I have to answer. What you really know is anytime something. Sorry. Anytime something is up and running, what you have to do is look to the chief school administrator, the superintendent, to see what the superintendent's plans are. Those types of decisions as to what's going to happen with a particular facility or whatever is that, remember, the chief school administrator is the superintendent, so the superintendent has to make the recommendation to the board of what he wants to do, he or she wants to do with that campus. Additionally, then the board has to make a decision as to whether or not they agree with what the superintendent's plans are for that. So you can't say right now definitively what would happen, because you just have to wait and see what develops at that particular point in time.
Mr. Ferrandino?
As much as I can answer that question, it's a little bit premature. There's a lot of things that have to go into it. I don't have any. I just don't know right now. I wouldn't be able to answer.
Mr. Gaccione?
Yeah, I would work with the superintendent to see what the plans are and recommendations are.
In relation to what Memorial Campus will be, at that time, once the school is complete, the idea is to reassess where the current needs are at the time of the school district. It may become an annex to Jefferson, depending on what the needs are. It will be addressed once the school is complete, once the superintendent, director of curriculum, and everybody involved, part of that process to reassess what the need will be, but possibly an annex to Jefferson.
Thank you.
I agree with the other candidates. It's too early to say. The superintendent of schools would make the recommendations based on the student population and what our needs are at the time.
I have the same answer, obviously. I don't have that answer. Obviously, if elected, I would have that answer. I didn't think Memorial Campus was supposed to be this permanent. I thought it was a temporary site, personally, but I don't have the answer.
Unfortunately, not to be redundant, but I agree with the other candidates as well. It would make the decision right now without listening from what the superintendent recommends would, quite frankly, be foolish. Personally, though, if we are going to keep the younger kids there at kindergarten, pre-K, it would make sense. A very safe and secure area to keep all the younger kids together would be a little bit more beneficial.
The Memorial Campus was a 5-year lease, so they're nothing but trailers at the Memorial Campus. You turn the news on, you see now trailers with leaks, with mold. We have to start planning now. Maybe once you get to middle school, one of the better schools, we can move the children into there and just get rid of the Memorial Campus. Because they're going to start requiring a lot of maintenance that we really don't have money for right now.
Thank you. Next question for all candidates. The Board of Education redistricted the school system to go to the school where they live. Do you think it's fair that certain children stayed in the school they didn't belong in? Mr. Ferrandino, start with you.
Can you repeat that question?
Sure. The Board of Education redistricted the school system. Students were to go to the school where they live. Do you think it's fair that certain children stayed in the school they didn't belong in?
Is it fair? Not knowing the circumstances, it's hard to answer that. How many students were in schools that they didn't belong in is a question I would ask. What were the circumstances as to why they stayed there? Is it fair on the surface? No. But not knowing the circumstances, it's, I can't really answer that definitively, other than, need more information as to the details of why they were there or held there.
Ms. Cantor, would you, anytime you want me to repeat a question, just tell me.
Okay. I think with, the board and the superintendent at the time with limited access to locations, I think it was distributed the children the best we could, but without having more space and more schools, that was the plan.
When the schools were redistricted, they were put in a K-3 or K-2 and then a 4-8. There are special circumstances. Any parent who did not agree to go into a particular school for whatever reason, they were able to plead their case to the superintendent on a case-by-case basis. Those special circumstances were discussed with the superintendent, and they were either given permission to go to alternate school or to remain in the school they were assigned, whether it be medical reasons or whether it be child care reasons. It was on a case-by-case basis, and that's how they decided.
I don't know all the circumstances for how that happened, but I'm sure that there were underlying reasons behind that. The kids were moved around. I thought it was strange at first myself when I saw it. But I'm sure that there are IEP reasons, educational reasons, or health concerns that had the students stay where they were.
Just to add on to all of this, obviously, what I was going to say is the children are placed in different schools based on, different resources that are available to them in that different school.
Like I said, like everybody has said, don't know the circumstances, but what we do have to make sure is that we're not giving special treatment and overcrowding classrooms, because that would then become a burden on the teacher. And as far as the children are concerned, being parents, if there are rules that are set by our township as far as where each student needs to attend school, and we as parents can't follow those rules, then the type of example we're going to be setting for our children in that regard.
Well, being a parent of 4 children is nothing like a neighborhood school. The town is built with schools on four corners of Lyndhurst, and there's nothing like taking your child from Thomas Avenue over to Kingsland Avenue. But for the sake of education and to create a middle school environment, this is what we had to go to, what we had in middle school. So, if something needs to be changed, as parents, grandparents, guardians, you need to come to board meetings and express your concern. The biggest concern with this was when we districted was that parents had to run all over town dropping their kids off. Not enough town, kids being late at class. So come to the board meetings and something can be changed if need be.
Mr. Barnaskas?
Yeah, I find that to be an interesting question, especially when you say it's that certain children stay in schools they didn't belong in. That's making one can infer from that happened. That may or may not have happened, and there are circumstances about what schools children are placed in, and the process is supposed to be that if you don't agree with where your child is placed, you're supposed to work with the administration and find out can they go to a different school or why they are where they are. But, again, to say that, to ask candidates to say why are children staying in schools that they didn't belong in is really not really a fair question for us up here. It's a question that has to be answered through the administration and through each individual school. I think they got one by you on that one.
Next question. If elected, what will be the biggest change you want to implement to the schools? We'll start with Mr. Gaccione.
To the schools?
Yes.
I think the biggest change is making it easier and making all the websites the same so that we can get the information, regardless of where our kids are from schools, all the same way.
The biggest change to the schools, it's hard to say what the biggest change I would put in place because there's many right now. With the deficit and everything, I do want I want these schools to succeed. I don't want to be where we're at right now. I want to move forward. I want these kids to succeed and strive and be the best they can be. I want the teachers to know they have the support of the board, of the community. It's really hard for me to say what the biggest change.
It came to my attention that Lyndhurst pays for our students to go out of district when they have IEPs and they reach 18 to 21 years of age. I think the change would be if we kept those students here in our own district. It would eliminate all kinds of costs, tuition, transportation, related services. I think that if we could find a place for them here, that would be a big change and would be helpful to our budget.
So, not so much a change, but what I'd like to do is, I'd like to continue the programs that we've been implementing in the high school and the grammar schools. But I would like to touch on more of some mental health issues, some bullying issues, and maybe self-esteem issues, because what we're seeing is that's a direct correlation to addiction later in life. So not so much a change, but maybe if we could keep these going, these programs going. I don't know how the state monitor or the budget cuts are going to affect that, but maybe by our municipal alliance grant, we could offset that cost.
Same for me, not so much a change, but as far as I'm concerned with the Board of Ed, what we need to do is show the teachers in this town that have been working so diligently to raise the test scores. As the past Board of Education meeting, Commissioner Greco showed the slideshow of how our test scores are rising, how we're improving with our rating. We need to let the teachers know that we are behind them. They need to know that the Board of Education has their back, especially after a couple of years ago with all the layoffs. The teachers need to be secure that they have a Board of Education that is willing to fight for them. Same thing with the lunch aides that were promised raises that never got the raises. Lunch aides, you may think is nothing special, but you know the lunch aides, they're trained as far as if a child has an allergy or something like that. I mean, we need the staff and the faculty of each school to know that the Board of Education is behind them 100%, and we are willing to fight for them.
One of the things is better communication, because I've seen at board meetings where people have issues and it's not getting, they're trying to contact people, the phones aren't working, or people aren't answering their emails. Better communication, attract the best teachers. Trades, when I graduated from high school, I didn't know what I was doing. It was by fluke that I got my job in the Porterbury, and I built from there. And just teach life skills. That's what it's all about, to succeed.
The changes I'd like to see made to the school system is, but the question is, the changes are those that will result when the new middle school is done and the other upgrades are made to the different schools. That's what we really need to do. We have to make sure that the kids in our town can compete with the kids from all the other towns in Bergen County and New Jersey. And the only way we're going to do that is making sure that the facilities and programs are comparable to those offered in other districts.
The biggest change I'd like to see is trying to find a way to get smaller class sizes. I believe in a recent meeting, the board voted on increasing that to 26 per class. If I'm remembering correctly, I think we got to find a way to get that size, get the average size down to 20, in the low 20s, and assess them to make sure that every class is staffed at the proper rates to make sure the kids are getting the attention they need.
Thank you. Next question. How do you think PARCC testing has affected current teaching practices? And do you support the elimination of PARCC as a graduation requirement? And we'll start with Mrs. Jarvis.
PARCC testing, it's been here for a while. We keep reassessing. We're at the stage now where we know where we're deficient, where we need to make improvements. There's always going to be some form of testing, so my kids have always taken the part testing. I've never been against it because you're always going to need to take a test at some point, whether it be part or another during it. As far as for graduation, there's so many tests that they take at this point. I don't know if that's necessarily the one that is the true assessment for them to move forward.
Part testing seems to have taken over from regular classroom experiences for some of the kids. And although it is important to assess where the kids are, and it's important to see where they are compared to other school districts, I think we're losing something of having the teacher be able to do their own lesson plans. They're teaching to the test, from what I understand from some of the teachers, and I would like to see that part change. I don't know that there's another test that's going to take its place. I'm not sure that there's a better answer. As for graduation purposes, I think that they do have to meet certain requirements in the curriculum. They need their credits, and I think that they don't need to have a final test that big with that pressure on them at the end of the year.
Just to add on to that, park testing, the park scores have been up throughout the district, which has been one of the district's accomplishments. I think the concern that I have is that like Lynn said, the teachers are teaching to the test. They're changing the curriculum to teach to the test, and that's when we kind of lose some of the content that we should be teaching our children.
I feel the same way. I'm in no way, shape, or form an educator. I did not go to college to study what our educators did, so I'm not sure what the benefits are of testing. But I can remember from when I was in school, the teachers that I feel had the biggest influence on me. The teachers that at 42 years old right now, I still remember particular instances being in their classrooms. They were not teaching to a test. And I mean, like I said, if you're teaching to a test and we're doing something wrong, I would want our educators to educate, do the job that they've been doing, and obviously the teachers in this town have been doing a great job as it is. I am happy that the test scores are going up, but like I said, I'm not sure what difference that will make when it comes down to the future for our children.
Again, like everybody's saying, it's about the teachers teaching to the test. There's so much emphasis put on it. The district is judged by the scores that the kids get. But we still need something in place for kids to graduate. Until there's something changes, this is what we're stuck with.
I'm not going to say anything much different than other people. You have to have a way of assessing the skills and abilities of the children when you get students when they're getting ready to graduate. But because again, you can't study for the test to the point where the things that really should be learned are lost in the classroom because too much time being focused put onto the test and the test scores and the teacher's evaluation and everything. So making changes as you go along is an evolutionary sort of thing, and it has to change over time. So I think perhaps dropping the requirement as it was is not a bad thing in and of itself, as long as it's not replaced with something that's more difficult. They have to make an assessment, and they just have to keep letting it evolve and getting there, but making sure you don't just study for the test like the other candidates. So.
Personally, I am not a big fan of the park test, and I believe our governor isn't either. From what I understand, it's not long for New Jersey that they've already talked of replacing it. I believe in testing and some form of testing to help teach the kids prepare and to gauge where we are as a district. But we need to learn from the mistakes of the park and take those and better the program that whatever program comes out next that does replace it.
Park is what we have that is provided provided by the state. I think the biggest issue is the largest, it has a big contribution to teachers' compensation of how the students do on the test. So unless that changes, there's not, I don't see much flexibility. The other part is, do I support eliminating it? I support reviewing it, but unless the state changes their position or the teachers' comps change towards it, it is what it is.
Okay. Next question. With the district being $5 million in debt, how will you ensure that services and curriculum will not be affected? And we'll start with Mrs. Mizeski.
Unfortunately, at this time, we're under a state monitor. Any ideas or anything that we would like to put forward, we will be unable, it has to be passed by him. He has to approve it. I would like to see, obviously, the deficit go away, and I would like the teachers to be able to do what they'd like to do. I'd like the curriculum to be updated and be state-of-the-art along with our new school. But until we get out of this deficit, I can't answer that question. The state monitor is the one who's in charge. He's the one who is in charge of our budget and any decisions that we go forward.
I think this coming school year is going to be telling on how we handle everything. Obviously, we have the state monitor. The state monitor is in place. We will work with him. He's going to get us in a good fiscal position. I think the faculty and the staff in each of the schools is going to have to pick up the slack if there are cuts or if there are shortfalls, and they're going to have to pick that up and roll with it. So, I point to the Municipal Alliance often. There is county money available where we could supplement some of the programs or some of the cuts with that money. And, that would be something I would like to speak to the administration.
During last year's election, we were talking about a deficit that everybody was concerned about that was around the $500,000 range. As we all know, that is actually very far from reality, unfortunately. The superintendent and the board brought in business manager, Scott Bizen. He's started to discover some problems. He had a fresh set of eyes, and he also comes with a great reputation. As a parent, I'm pleased with the strides that the school has made right now to try and prevent this from happening again, to try and dig deeper and to find out exactly where we are. Because once this audit is done, I have a strong feeling it's going to be well over $5 million. And just a year ago, we were talking about $500,000. That's a big difference. So it'd be foolish for me to make any assumptions. I think we need to wait for the audit to be done and rely on the fact that we hired a business manager that is going to look into this. My job, if elected as a Board of Ed member, would be to really approve not only approve the hiring of quality people,